What do you think separates great investors from good investors?
Yeah. I think being able to see the future, obviously, and also being passionate. And oftentimes, I know this is going to be contrary, and every Harvard professor is probably going to scream, but it's probably not always diversification. I wouldn't exactly say we've made our family fortune based on great diversification when, we were all into real estate. Everything we did was hard assets. We weren't diversified. We believed in a certain category. We were damn good at that category, and that category grew extremely quickly. And we made a fortune off of it. I think a lot of times you have people who go out and they'll put, 2% into bonds and 2% into stocks and 2% into crypto and 2%, right? And at the end of the day, you're not going to move any different than an ordinary market can move. It's a little bit hard to break out of the pack when you're doing the exact same thing as the pack is doing. So, listen, I think being able to look ahead and see the future. And that's certainly what I'm doing in crypto. And the future is crypto on every single front, on payment rails, on obviously Bitcoin being digital gold. There's no question on just a modernization of finance, having 24-hour finance, having much more efficient finance, having less fees, having less costs, being more transparent. But listen, if you look out and look at what AI's done, look at what quantum's done. Look what's happening in so many of kind of the energy advances, and look how parabolic those stocks and those companies are going. I think you have to look out and be very good and harness your efforts and exploit your talents, and that's how you do well in life.
See, I'm a pretty firm believer, as is Graham, in saving more than you spend. Yeah. And then also investing that in index funds, a diversified portfolio. Do you think that is still a good approach to go all in on more cutting edge crypto?
So break the two things apart. I mean, one is a saving strategy. The other is a career path if you're an entrepreneur, right? And so, yes, should you save a hell of a lot more than you spend? Of course, otherwise you can't get to the point. Like, how do you invest in crypto if you have no money to invest, right? Let's start at the very basics. So, you better save money, and you better be able to invest that money into something, right? Yes, I do believe in that, and I do believe that there's a big portion that, in a way should be peeling off 12, 13% in great ETFs that are efficient, where you're not going out with crazy money managers that are underperforming the market, where they're charging you 220 and all sorts of crazy rates. So listen, there's certain disciplined finance, but I think in terms of becoming a great investor and really making your money, you're not going to do it simply by investing in T-bills. It's just never going to happen. No one's ever become wealthy, investing in a product that goes up 5% a year, 4% a year. You can hold on to wealth. You can save money. If you've got a great career and you're siphoning off $100,000 a year or $500,000 a year or $1 million a year, and you're investing in a product that's stable, fantastic. But you also need a career that can throw off enough money that you can actually get to that promised land.
What's the best investment advice that you've heard?
Well, I mean, I guess there's a difference between investment and career, right? I mean, I focus so much of my investments on my actual career and on betting on projects that I think I can effectuate and do a great job with. And so I think you have to separate the two, right? And then I think once you make a lot of money here, you can take that and you can properly invest it over here, and you can do so very, very kind of safely and securely. But I think the vast majority of our bets have always been on ourselves and our talents. We go find a messed up hotel, great location, great property, iconic as hell, run like hell. No money was put into it. Management teams stunk. They weren't good with what they did. They didn't have the heart. They didn't have the soul. They didn't have the passion. The owners didn't have the vision. And so oftentimes we go in and we'd buy those properties for pennies on the dollar. We put money into them, we'd re-envision them, and we would turn them into gold mines. And we did that over and over. And, in a certain way, it's almost like venture capital, right? But in a little bit of a different space, in like the hard asset space, right? And that's always really rewarding when you can take something that was a mess. Hey, I did with this property that you're standing in right now. This was a Ritz-Carlton. They had run the thing into the ground. They didn't know the difference between, a tee and a fairway and a green. They weren't golf people. They were sucking money. They were losing a lot of money every single year. I bought the property, and 9 months later, I had the thing, cash flowing positively. And today it's one of the most successful properties in all of Florida, right? And so, going in with a little bit of common sense and fixing a place, repairing it, I like that kind of bet.
I do have to say the team here was incredible.
Thank you.
We moved some of the furniture around, and immediately when I texted Nancy, 3 people showed up within a minute, and they came with tape measures, and they were making sure everything was level and the same height. It was incredible.
So that's my analness that comes through, the teams, and I've become famous for, not walking through the front doors of our properties, going through the loading docks. I know every single mechanical room in every single one of our properties, in every one of our attics. I know every HVAC unit. We are very, very granular. And if your back of house is perfect, if that mechanical room in the basement of a building is spotless, well lit, well painted, immaculately kept, you don't need to worry about anything else in the operation. And that standard will flow through all the employees and everything they do. And I can't tell you guys, especially with Secret Service in our lives now, how oftentimes I go through the back of one of these famous hotels all around the world. They are normally dirty, grungy, lights are burned out, the ice machines are disgusting, they look gross. You will never find that one of our assets.
So why can't we apply that same standard to politics? I'm curious, going from business into politics, what was the one thing that surprised you the most out of all of it?
Yeah,
I'm sure you went in with an expectation as well.
Yeah, I think the lack of competence of a lot of politicians, if you want to know the truth, right? I mean, these are mainly people who didn't have jobs. Look at Joe Biden, right? Joe Biden, had been in politics for 55 years, 56 years actually when he got out, right? I'm a 41-year-old guy. I've got gray in my beard. Think about it, right? Never signed the front of a check, never built anything. Most of his life had yes/no decisions, yes/no votes. Could you imagine my life was a yes/no vote, right? I mean, I might need to effectuate 500 things to get to the end result. And it's all a roadmap in order to get there. And so I think it creates very binary thinking, and oftentimes some of the politicians who are, debating and voting on the most complicated, items that we have in society know nothing about and have zero real world practical, skill look at like some of these minimum wage, proposals that are going up in New York, doubling, tripling minimum wage. Well, that's great other than the fact that they're just going to, automate every single service. And you're not going to have any jobs in the state because they won't be able to afford to pay for it, right? And you see that. Like, look at California, right?
Mm-hmm.
They want to triple minimum wage, double minimum wage. And guess what Dunkin' Donuts does? They just automate all of their processes and fire all of their employees. And I think sometimes you need to be able to have a comprehension of the other side, of a topic. And so oftentimes these politicians, because they've never run a business and they've never signed a check and they've never had to make payroll and they've never lived through a recession or a depression, they have no idea what the hell they're doing.
But now, in fairness, though, isn't that advancing something that we're going in that direction anyway? So let's say they do raise the minimum wage and now it's $40 an hour. I feel like we're heading in that direction anyway. The jobs are going to be taken over by AI, so they're just speeding the process up.
They're probably speeding the process up, probably at the behest of people, and they're forcing it. All right, right now it's not forced. It can, capitalism can chart that path and the speed of that path. I think so oftentimes, they make bad decisions that forces something that wouldn't otherwise have to be. And I think that's, again, at the behest of a lot of people, right? And so that always enamored me about politicians, right? When you have people who really never had real world experience and all of a sudden they're on a, but yet you'll hear from all these people, right? Hillary Clinton, what does Donald Trump know about foreign policy? Oh, ha, ha, ha. Well, I mean, in fact, from the fact that we've spent our entire life in just about every country around the world because we're in international real estate, maybe nothing, but her foreign policy caused 20 years of death and destruction and wars. Whereas, my father was serving French fries 12 months ago and all of a sudden we have, peace in the Middle East.
If you've ever been denied a car loan, credit card, or even an apartment because of what's on your credit report, you are not alone. Most people don't even know what's hurting their credit score, let alone how to fix it. That is exactly where our sponsor DisputeBeast comes in. It's an AI-powered platform that helps you find and remove outdated or inaccurate items from your credit report fast.
We're talking things like late payments, old accounts and collections, or even accounts that don't belong to you. Not to mention, how it works is super easy. You connect your credit report and DisputeBeast scans it for negative marks that could be dragging down your score. Then it generates custom dispute letters tailored for your situation, no templates and no guesswork.
You could choose to just download the data and send it to the agencies yourself, or you can use their built-in mail service where they will literally handle everything for you.
It's honestly just really clean and simple to use, and it's built by experts.
So if you're ready to take back control of your credit, go to DisputeBeast.com/ICH today. There's also a link down below in the description, DisputeBeast.com/ICH. Guys, they will literally handle everything for you. If you're dissatisfied with your credit, they will do all of the research, let you know what's going wrong, and they will fight for you. DisputeBeast.com/ICH. Thank you so much to DisputeBeast for sponsoring this clip.